Hi, my name's Stephanie Bown, high performance coach, and today I'm going to tell you about the Human Synergistic Circumplex. What I really love about this system is that it gives us a measurement tool and a language for behaviour in organisations. We often take a pulse check on engagement or retention as indicators of cultural health, but rarely do we actually measure how cultures feel by what people do, or how rarely do we actually measure leadership behaviour itself. So this system gives us a tool for doing that and a consistent language around it as well. So the system, the Human Synergistics Circumplex, was developed over 40 years ago by J. Clayton Lafferty and Robert Cook. And it's a system that really helps us understand how your thinking and behaviour impacts performance and effectiveness at the individual, team and organisational level. It's an applied science model, really thinking about how we bring bodies of research together and apply it in context so that we can actually use this research to guide decision making about how we typically behave. So it came about when the researchers were trying to think about, well, what drives behaviour? Is it the situation we're in, the stimulus that drives behaviour? And to a certain extent, that is very true, particularly when we're looking at animal behaviour, where stimulus literally equals response. So if you think about how we train dogs to sit, we ask them to sit, we give them a treat and they sit eventually after a couple of those guys and at times, and essentially they learn how to sit and then we don't need the treat anymore, we remove the treat. So the word sit produces the behavioural response in the dog. Now that's fine for animal training and animal behaviour, but in humans we have another step, and that's our thinking of the response. So in humans, the equation is stimulus plus thinking equals response. So between the stimulus and the response is how we think about the environment. And in fact, it's not so much the environment or the stimulus, the situation we're in, that determines our behaviour. Our behaviour has a lot more to do with our judgment, our thinking about that behaviour. Dr. Stephen Covey said this in First Things First. He said, between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So if our thinking impacts how we respond, how can we get feedback on our thinking that either helps us or hinders us in the way that we actually ultimately respond? So the researchers designed this Human Synergistic Circumplex as a way of describing how humans typically respond in any given situation. And it describes 12 different styles of thinking and behaviour that are plotted against both a vertical and a horizontal axis as outlined in the diagram there. So in any given situation, we are oriented towards meeting satisfaction needs or security needs. So we're either oriented towards meeting these higher order needs, the need to do things because it's challenging or because it's fun, or the need to meet security needs, the need to keep ourselves feeling safe from some kind of perceived threat that's going on in the environment at the time. And the horizontal axis actually describes that we're either then focused on tasks, so getting stuff done, or on people. So, working with others or keeping others happy or ensuring that others are safe in the situation. So then we have this matrix where we can plot bodies of research that describes typically how we think and respond. So I'm going to talk you through the 12 different styles, and then I'm going to talk to you about the clusters or the colours in the circumplex. So at the 12 o'clock position, we start with a style of behaviour that represents our most satisfaction-seeking part of the profile. And Maslow's research on self-actualizing really suits this particular position on the matrix. It describes a style of behaviour that is characterised by actualizing the self, really showing commitment to something, having clarity of purpose, enjoying being involved, being creative and being a problem solver, and really showing self-respect and achievement of goals. Then if we think about the opposite of self-actualizing at the 6 p.m. position, this is the most security-seeking behaviour. And Harry Sachs-Sullivan's research on avoidance orientation perfectly describes this orientation or this style. So when we're in avoidance, we avoid risk to keep safe. And it's the opposite of self-actualizing. It's characterised by things like laying low, avoiding conflict, kind of putting things off and hoping that they would take care of themselves by avoiding them. At the 3 o'clock position then, the most people-oriented side of the circumplex, the literature on this really calls to Carl Rogers, who talked about the approval orientation. This is characterised by a strong need to be liked, being very people-oriented, having very little to do with task orientation, more about people. And so the approval orientation is really about agreeing with people, supporting those in authority, or setting goals and actions to please others. And on the opposite side of the approval orientation is the most task-oriented style of behaviour. And Rogers proposed an alternate to approval, which he called competitive, which was not about being concerned with being liked by you. I want to beat you. So this is the most task-oriented focus of style of behaviour. We're not concerned by being liked by others. We're more concerned with winning. And then we have these 4 anchors essentially, and they describe the shape of the circumplex. And that allows us to place other pieces of research or bodies of work into the matrix. And the nature of the circumplex is such that opposites are opposite each other, and those are most similar are side by side. So we look for satisfaction-seeking behaviour that's also people-oriented, and we find Carl Rogers' work on humanistic and encouraging, which is really characterised by a focus on the growth and development of others. And people who are highly humanistic and encouraging, or when we're displaying that style, we're focused on developing others regardless of liking them. Then we move to something that's similar to humanistic and encouraging, but with overtones of approval. And that's David McClelland's work on the affiliative style. And in this style, we're characterised by being cooperative and friendly, showing genuine concern. When we're in affiliative style, we're creating relationships, reciprocal relationships that are based on mutual respect and mutual trust, which is different to approval, which is much more about seeking to please others rather than seeking a mutual sense of respect. And then we have a style that's oriented towards meeting security needs, but with overtones of approval, and that's conventionalism. Conventionalism is characterised by really focusing on treating rules as more important than ideas. We follow the rules to keep safe. Then we have dependency, which is similar to conventional, but with overtones of avoidance. And when we're in dependency, we're really depending, we're relying on others to make decisions for us, to give us direction. Ultimately, we're handing over decision-making control to others. And that's a way of keeping safe. Then when we move over to the task orientation side of the circumplex, but has something that has similar overtones to avoidance, and this is Karen Horney's work on oppositional. This is about feeling safe by finding fault with others or disagreeing with others. And when we're in the oppositional style, we're looking for mistakes in others, and that makes us feel safe. It makes us feel right. Then we have the power style, which is about being more task-oriented, but with overtones of competitiveness. And in power, we really have a strong need for control and the need to be in a dominant position. People who have a hard time delegating and trusting others are really demonstrating this style. We move over to the task orientation side of the circumplex, but with overtones of satisfaction, and we find perfectionism. This is the need to do things perfectly, never wanting to make a mistake, setting high, unrealistic goals, and needing to be personally in control or taking care of everything. This state creates constant levels of stress for people who are in perfectionistic. Then we find achievement, which is overtones of perfectionism, but also self-actualization. And achievement is about doing things extremely well, striving for achievement. There's a great comparison between achievement and competition, in that achievement is about being good, competition is about looking good. There's also another great comparison between achievement and perfectionism. Achievement, when we're in achievement, good enough is good enough. When we're in perfection, good enough is never enough. And we often see those 3 styles playing out against each other: achievement, perfectionism, and competitiveness. When the researchers designed this system, they actually then looked at correlations between these behavioural styles and the impact on our effectiveness. And what they've discovered is that we can actually cluster these styles together. So the blue styles are in the 11 o'clock through to 2 o'clock position. And the blue styles are all about dealing with people and task effectively. So we can actually, they're called constructive. They're all about dealing effectively with an outcome. Then we have the 3 to 6 o'clock positions, and these are the green styles. They are called passive defensive styles. In this style, we're defending ourselves by using passive strategies. So in the 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock position, we have the red styles. Now, these are equally defensive styles of operating, but they're called aggressive defensive styles. And we're now protecting ourselves by using aggression. So if I have to do it, I'll just do it myself. So we adopt aggressive strategies to get stuff done. So what's interesting is when we correlate these things with outcomes, what we see is constructive styles are positively correlated with performance and effectiveness. In passive teams, that performance is negatively correlated with performance and effectiveness. But in aggressive teams, what we get is a really interesting result. We see a high correlation with performance, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost to the individuals who are driving the outcome. So we see a high correlation of these red styles with reports of stress and health issues. And we also see high levels of turnovers in companies with lots of red behaviour. People leave because it's unsustainable to maintain that kind of strong focus on tasks without a balance of getting things done through others. So in high red organisations, we see short-termism, we see short-term achievement of outcomes, but no long-term sustainable performance. So if we're striving for long-term sustainable performance, what we're striving for are blue constructive styles. And the objective of all of this is to move towards blue. So the system can be used to give us feedback on where we can be more constructive and where we can look at reducing passive or aggressive styles so that we can be more effective. If you have questions or you'd like to find out more, don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks for listening.